Hello everyone, welcome to Titan Academy. In this video, we will cover the logic using conditions on elements and validation on fields and some tools like hiddens and debug mode, etc. Alright, so we have a fresh form here, and what we will do, we will start with some conditions. Let me show you how this works. So let's say we have a drop down, and I'll take a look at the drop down elements here, and I'll change them to first, second, third, and let's do text box. And what I will say on the drop down, and you can do this with any element on Titan, you go to the element settings, conditioning, set condition, and we will say if the current field equals to first, I would like you to, and notice the support opposite and force execution, everything in Titan in general has a question mark, and if you click that question mark, you'll be able to get a quick explanation of what that function does. I'll explain the support opposite and force execution. Basically, support opposite, what it does is once you have a match for your condition. So let's say this value equals first, and I'll head over to configure conditions and I'll do show. Then if it doesn't match first, Titan will automatically hide it unless it matches first. So let's see how this runs. So I'll save this and publish. And right now we see that the text box is not showing since it's not equals first. And if it will equal first, it will show you the text box. And if you do not support opposite, then you will need, once the value is not first, you need to hide it. Once the value is first, you need to show it. Okay, let's move on to some other functions we have here. And you can do stuff like show messages, redirect, open modal, and again, notice these question marks, execute JS, almost anything you can do from the conditions. The most important ones are usually the hide, show, enable, disable, make mandatory on field actions, and then up here you have the global actions like run Salesforce action, and you'll be able to run a push or a get directly from that condition if that condition meets your criteria. You could do like execute button, submit, reset, go previous, go next if you're using page break on the screen and you have multiple pages on your form, and a bunch of other stuff here. All right, so let's do something like this, and I'll show you another important thing to know about the show and hide. So what we will do with the text box, so if it's first, we're gonna make it show, and if it's hide, if it's not, we're gonna make it hide just like before. I'm just gonna change this to last name. And what we will do here is go to our push, and let's create a new one. So we want to push a contact, and it's a very, very simple push. Create a contact with last name. And we all know that the last name on the contact is mandatory. Okay, and let's use a custom action button, and we will map the fields. We will say last name on the form is last name. Last name on the contact object will be mapped to my form field last name. Apply and finish. Before we head on to demonstrate the hide and show and what it means for your integrations, one thing to know is that many times you have big forms with a lot of elements and a lot of conditions, and sometimes you don't see the correct results. And the fastest way to debug this is if you click on any element, it will head over to conditioning, so the element settings, conditioning, and you click the affected by, it will show you exactly what's happening on this field. So here we see that we're doing show, and this is the field that's affecting it. And if I'll click configure condition, I'll be able to see exactly and edit it directly from here. Another thing we see that it's related to a push, and it's related via mapping. If it would be a condition, it will show you it's used for a condition or in a rule condition as well. So you can see everything that's happening directly from here. All right, so let's move on how the hide affects your integrations, and that could go to your Same thing with if you have documents, PDF mapping, Word mapping, etc. What it means when you hide an element from the screen. All right, so we'll go back to our form, we'll refresh it, and we forgot to put a button to push the contact, so let's add a button, and that will be Salesforce action button, and we'll add it, and let's return the record ID so we can see it clearly. So I'll put a hidden, and we'll call this created contact, and notice that I have my debug on, debug mode, show hidden fields. That will really help you to see what's happening with all your hidden fields, with all your hiddens. Okay, we'll save this and we'll refresh. Again, we forgot something small, so we'll map this to the created contact so we'll be able to see it. And let me give you a scenario of, we selected first, we filled up the last name, and we'll say last name, and let's change it back to second. And I'll try and submit this, and I did not get a contact created. Why? Since once you hide an element, it removes it completely from your screen. So we do not use it for integrations. So you will see my error here, required field is missing. Since the last name is a required field, it is missing. So if you want to hide something from the screen, you can use hide per device, you can use a hidden, and I'll show you a real usage for this in just a second. So if I will submit this now, then obviously everything will go according to plan, and we also saw it in the hidden over there that we got the contact ID created. So this is an important thing to know about hiding elements from the screen. So let's say you have like a calculated field and you're collecting data there and you want it to be used in a push behind the scenes. So let's say in this instance I want to use the drop down value and I want to use it for my last name. If I'll have a condition here hiding it, then it will not be used to the integration and the integration will fail. So the way for me not to show it to the users is head over to style, hide per device, and then your users won't be able to see it, but it will still be available for your integration. So if you map it to the last name, your push will go through according to plan. All right, great. Let's move on to validations. Okay, so whenever you click on an element, just like you have in the element settings, just like you have the conditioning, you can set up value rules. So for instance, email that you have as an element by default has a value rule to have the email address as a valid email. So for instance, and I'm showing the good and invalid indicator. So for instance, if I'll go back to my form and I will put an email address that's not valid, then we can see invalid email address. And this is possible due to validation rules. So what you could do here, you can customize, let's say the last name, and look how many options you have here. You can do validation on Israeli ID, you can do social security number to make sure it's a valid number, you can run your own regex, you can run custom with JavaScript, you can do numbers only, even though you do get it with the number element. So that comes in by default that you can only put in numbers. You can do max count of words, anything. In this instance, I'm just going to say, just to demonstrate, that it has to contain ABC. And if it does not contain ABC, I'm going to write my own custom error message and I'll say must contain ABC. And I'll hit apply and save. And if I'll refresh this and I'll show the last name and I'll do something that's not valid, then it will give me must contain ABC. Obviously, if I'll put ABC here, then it's going to be good. So this is a really amazing way to control your validation rules with a scalpel. So you can do almost anything here. Again, very, very powerful tool. Let's talk a little bit about hiddens. So hiddens have a bunch of ways to use it. The normal usage is to use as variables. You want to set data, read data, pass data into the hiddens, and you don't want your users to see it. And these are great for that. A few other ways to use it is to use system variables. So if I had a hidden here, and I'll say I want this to be, for instance, the language. Okay, let's call this lang. And let's do a different system variable. Let's do today. And then you can use this in your pushes. So you pushes, you get anything today. And let's take a look at a few more options here. A current hour, current day, ftlang, the OS that we're running, the user agent, anything you can think of, your IP, the browser. And then you can use like run conditions on these and use it however you wish. This is a really, really great tool to get some variables right off the bat with Titan. All right, so I'll save this and let's refresh the form. And in the same instance, I'll show you the debug. So aside from showing hidden fields, the debug mode also gives you a way, once you click that bar over there, it gives you a way to see all the fields and all the values that you have on the field. So right now we can see that our email is empty, the lang is ENUS, today is 24th of December, and the drop down has no value, and you can also filter and search, and if you have a ton of fields, it's a great way to find what you have real quick. And again, we have a video at length about the debug mode, and you can see if you had sections over here and nested sections within the sections, you'll be able to see your hiddens and their values, everything under here in a really, really good and nice way. Our last tool on the list is also a very important feature. Let's say you created a really complex form and your client has a new requirement and you want to add some stuff to the form, and you want to make sure that your changes are tracked. So if you by mistake made an error or there is a bug created by the additions you've added, you can revert back to the previous version. So in order for you to do it, and this is highly recommended, is to enable the versions. So let's say I click the enable versions and I'll hit save and I'll click view versions. I see that I have a new version here and use this version. And if you want to see a video about this at length, like everything else here, just click the question mark and it will take you to a video specific about that. Let's add a few things here, even a push and get. So let's say I'll add a get here, count, and I'm not going to set any conditions. I'm just going to say execute on form loads. I'm not going to even map anything, just to show you what this does. So I've saved this, and now let's head over to the debug mode and view versions, and I can see I have a new version created, and now I can click on use this version, and let's see what happened to the get I've just added. It's gone. So that will virtually revert back your form to that moment of the save. And this is how it's done.